What it do, what it do, what it do, y'all. Welcome back for episode 2 of the Fog Down Under podcast. Super excited to be digging into things today. We have a lot to get into, so we're going to be jumping right on into things. And just as like you had seen there in the intro, today with me on the desk, my partner in crime down here from the land down under, Darth. How you doing, homie?
I am doing fantastic, Q. It's fantastic to be here. Oh, I can't believe we're already on our second episode here of Down Under as well. How you been planning the 6-year anniversary been treating you over the pond?
You know, I do gotta say I have been enjoying the time with my community during the 6-year event and seeing all the cool maps, the masks, and I've been able to unlock those. I haven't really been rocking them too much, but it's always fun to see the different cosmetics and kind of some of the things that they do add into the actual to the game itself. The one thing though that I do always I think a lot of us always notice is, of course, with the event, the heat has definitely seemed to have been turned up in the fog here, which I gotta ask, why does that always seem to be the case?
Yeah, every time there's an event, it's always we always do get some of those sweaty killers. It gets pretty spicy though. Like over the past few days, I've been running into all kinds of crazy stuff. We've had a clown confirmed stages.
Mm-hmm.
Sorts of just wild stuff, and it's it's not like we're playing for Prove Thyself and all these brand parts and stuff. Just been trying to have some fun, but it sort of ends up becoming almost like a just this side's doing this, so I'm going to do this, and then eventually everyone's just
right
sweating and sort of avoiding that whole fun part of the event where like. The first few years where they introduced this stuff, you'd see killers and survivors. You see killers swinging, like where you can pick up the crowns and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now it's just a little bit of a sweat fest, which look, I don't mind. I do love some good chases, as good as I used to be though. But yeah, every time without fail, it's to be pretty sweaty games. It's been the same down your end as well.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. I mean, I feel like especially I mean, I know at least as far as from personal experience with my community, we generally are more of like the meme type, like you had mentioned, right? We're not coming in with the 4 unbreakable DS with the prove thyself. Although I can't help but laugh whenever I see the back and forth across the community, whether it's on Twitter, Reddit. I'm a part of some of the bigger like Facebook communities as far as for DBD as well. And it's like the back and forth where you see the killers like, well, why is everyone running, why am I running into 4 prove thyself during an event? And I'm like, well, maybe that's because the last like 10 games that I've played, I've been getting tunneled out in 4 and 5 gens. So I want some points. I mean, I feel like neither side tends to think about the other side. I know a lot of the same thing like for survivors, right? They don't understand that there are some of those bully boy like squads out there, and once you've ran into a couple, sometimes you just need to take it out on the next team that you face, even if it's not their fault. Again, it's like that back and forth that we tend to forget.
Absolutely.
But something about the events, I think it's because killers know. I mean, let's be honest, like killers know how to get the blood points, right? Like you get one person out, you make it the 3v1, and then you're okay to go for the slugs to kind of, build up the points back for where we tunneled out early and to be able to maximize those points. But at the same time, it's like, at what point are we just worried about blood points as on the killer side versus like wanting to have an engaging game? You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But speaking of blood points, what have you been spending your blood points on this event? It's been amazing farming for me so far. I've been noticing almost every single game getting those 5 flares. Pumping through all my killers so far. slowly making sure I finally got all of it on them. What have you been spending your blood points on?
Yeah, so I know for me, I was wanting to try and get a couple more. We have the new prestige system coming out, so I wasn't trying to prestige people too much. I was trying to see if I can get like all of my survivors up to P3, just to at least maybe get like whatever the cool bonus was. Until I found out that was like just a border on like those ones
Yeah.
survivors when you around their like icon or whatever. So at this point, it's just kind of really about um adding the cakes to a lot of my like my mains. So that part of the reason with the change for my model on the podcast here, I fully embraced my inner meme child. So we run the '80s baby Jake Park. So we're just trying to flaunt it up, and honestly, just been having a lot of fun trying to get the perks that I want on survivors that don't currently have them that are P3, because I have quite a few of those. But I know that soon enough I won't have to worry about that. So it's just mostly been just making sure I have my meme builds on all of my characters that I don't currently, just so I can
Oh
kind of spread the
yeah.
love.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to make sure you get that head-on mental guide deception build on each of your survivors, and the you know uh, chase builds on all the killers as well, just to make it a bit more fun. I know someone what I've run so far is, as of I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before, they were sitting on about 500 just on their nerfs. Yep,
Sheesh.
507. Yeah, that was as of yesterday. So God knows how
Man.
many they're on now.
Now, I can't help but wonder, because I am trying to spread my flans, but I feel like if you got 500 flans, like, is that one of those things where even after the event, you just keep like going through all of them? Or do you like kind of stop? Do you think some of those people like stockpile them just so they can, like, it's like the collector's edition sort of deal?
Yeah, this bloke has been he's been wanting to get up to 2,000 flans on his
Oh.
on his purse.
So is he also still currently using flan, or is he just stacking them?
So he's been using them on the survivor, and then
Mm-hmm.
after he reaches max blood points, leaves the match, goes and gets into the killer side, spends all the points. But yeah, so far it's and I mean that's sort of similar to what I'm doing. I'm really happy with where my survivors are. I've been missing a few picks on. I mean, I wanted to get Disillusion on Trapper. So one of the first things I did. I just want to sort of try that out. Get Dark Devotion ready for that perk change as well. So yeah,
Man, a lot of perk changes coming while you're mentioning that, right? I mean, we just got the patch notes. I guess was that yesterday, 2 days ago? Yesterday, man. Yesterday was a long day. Holy cow!
I know,
Yes,
right?
yeah, it was yesterday. I'm like totally thinking. I'm like, was that 2 days ago? And we have a lot to talk about because we've got. I mean, perks on both sides getting just. I don't want to say completely changed. Some of them getting completely changed, but a lot of big changes coming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course, the biggest one that I've seen all of the everything over Twitter and Reddit about is the dead hard change. That has split the community. I'm pretty change. I mean, an endurance status effect is at its core. Like if you look at it on paper, it looks like it's going to be, not much has changed. But the fact the second you're not getting that distance, you can still get grabbed. I'm feeling pretty happy about the change. What about yourself?
So I think for the dead hard change, oh, what's the best way of putting this? I feel like when I look at the dead hard change, I feel like I've felt about quite a few things recently where it's like the change is being made because it needs a change, but I don't think the thought process of what the change is was really like thought about in detail, because I understand like you want to take away the whole dead harding for distance, because I understand how that, how that can feel for a killer. Um, but now it's the part that everyone kind of was irritated about anyways, which was it's no longer the iframes portion, but now it's just an endurance status effect, which I feel like people who were good at timing their dead hards for that portion of dead hard in the past anyways, even though it wasn't the most optimal use for it, was just to avoid the hit, right? Instead of dead harding for distance. Now you can
Mhm.
get so much more distance instead of just, greeting a loop and then just using that palette and then continue. Like, let's say if I'm at a filler, right? Instead
Yeah.
of greeting a filler and then dead harding because I get an extra loop around there, and now I'm still staying at that filler. Now I'm dead harding. I have an endurance status effect. I get hit. Now I'm using that burst of speed to make it to a whole nother tile, and I haven't had to use that palette. It just, I feel like at the end of the day, it's going to cause more problems for killers than the old one. I think personally.
I get what you're saying, although they are making those changes now to the duration of speed burst you get after a hit, as well as successful hit cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like because of those changes, it's not going to be as bad as if they just changed it now on this sort of current successful hit cooldown and, you know, the amount of time that you do get that sprint burst for after being hit. If it was on this, yeah, I can see how a lot more problematic. I feel it would get rid of some of the other issues, like again that dead harding for distance, people getting just that free press E button. I pressed one button, now better than you, sort of moments on a loop. But now there's definitely going to be a lot of skill behind it. Like you're going to have to time. Latency is going to be a big thing that factors in here too, even validation.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I'm really looking forward to the PTB so I can actually see how it feels.
Yes,
especially
me
again
too.
with those killer changes as well. We worked it out. Save the best for last. If you get that all stacked up, it won't almost be compared to currently almost something stacks of save the best for last because of the base changes on top of the perk as well. It's going to be scary.
Now, when we talk about, I mean, how the you talk about Dead Hard, but there's so many perks here that are going to be getting changed, and I don't want to go through all of the perks individually. I feel like if anybody wants like those perk changes, there are definitely some content creators out there that can do that. But I wanted to talk. I think the big thing I really wanted to hit on was, do you feel that all of these changes is really going to change this way that the game is played? Or do you think it's just going to inevitably make it to where there's a new meta that's still based around the function of the game? And let me kind of expand on that, right? Because if we looked at the old meta, well, it was very much second chance perk heavy for the survivors, and very much gen control perk, whether it's regression or slowdown on the killer side. And I think part of that was because when you look at the core fundament, the core of the game is it's a 4v1, and obviously you want to remove somebody as quick as possible, but some people make it to where they're trying to remove that first person before we're even down to like before we lose a second gen. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Which is what causes people, like, that's why Dead Hard was, you know, more used than like Sprint Burst or Live, because if I'm getting unhooked out in the middle of nowhere, at least I can try and maybe use Dead Hard to bait out the one hit, then get to a window or something like that, versus I need a window for a Lithe, or I need Sprint Bursts just right off the bat. You know, Decisive Strike became big because tunneling. Which we'll get to Decisive Strike in a minute, because I gotta say that the Decisive Strike change, I think, was actually a buff to the tunneling process, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, along with the changes that they've made and what they've built in now Survivor too.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting.
So do you think, because of some of the changes, do you think that the core mechanic, like the core fundament of the game, still stays the same? The tunnel 2, slug 2 at the end for the dub, which just means like now the survivors don't have, like, I feel like as a survivor, I don't have anything available to me, right? Do you think it's going to become more immersive, or do you think it just stays the same game, just now it ends quicker?
I feel like what happened is because it's such a massive change over the start of when it does become live, and you know they do their quote unquote fixes and it comes out with bugs. When it does go live, for the first maybe week or even couple of days, I feel like it's going to be a lot. People are going to be trying to get used to these changes. You're going to see some dead hard Andes go in for chases, not realizing it's changed, go down and get on Reddit. Say, oh my game is so trash. Blah. But I feel at its core there will be some in terms of what you were saying at the start, there will be a new meta that will form. Like this has been the meta and the staple for the longest time because of what these perks achieved, and how strong they were. But with these changes, I feel like perks like Overcharge, getting that gen regression from the kicks, especially since dry kicking now isn't just a 0%. You do get that initial 2.5%. things like that, that gen regression will definitely still be something that we see on a lot of killers, but instead of it being like, pop, Skirtual Pain Resonance, and DMS, we're probably going to see it through means of like Overcharge. Jolt looks like it's going to be a lot stronger than it was before, moving the cool. In terms of how survivors play, I have noticed that there is a lot of things that gearing towards more aggressive gameplay and trying to disengage from chases earlier. The lucky break change being a big one. The fact that when you start healing another survivor, you do get, for each second you heal, you will be getting a second back on your lucky break.
Right.
So I feel like we're going to see something that'll be very common in the games will be a lucky break over, so that they're still getting that long distance run hit, and then they're getting the lucky break, and then they're probably going to pair it with the botany knowledge buff, getting, healing people up faster, being a very quick reset, and off it goes. I feel at its core, the chases will be very similar. It's just we will be seeing a different variety of perks that will be in play with people in chase. I mean, the Volt Speed build has finally been put to rest with Spine Chill, moving that Volt Speed bonus on Spine Chill. But yeah, I feel ultimately it will be the same when people get used to these perks again. But it's just going to take some time. And then, we'll get to see this new meta. We'll get to see which direction the game does go, which I'm really excited to see. I've been playing for a very long time now. A change like this, like, I feel this is as big as when they changed the movement. Like, remember Dead by Daylight old movement, and then they changed to new? I feel like we're at a similar sort of level of bigger change this.
Now, when we look at, man, I feel like it's tough well, first off, I also wanted to point out while we're talking about some of the changes, not necessarily a perk change, but I have been telling people since the artist came out that the Pentimento perk was meant to test gen speeds without actually announcing testing gen speeds. And I can't help but notice that, what would essentially be the mid chapter that was usually would also include the artist patch notes, includes a gen speed change. So high five to myself, I guess. Now, for the perks, one more thing that I kind of wanted to ask here is, do you feel the corrupt change? I wanted to talk about this a little bit.
Oh, yep.
Because obviously there's going to be a lot of things that change for competitive with the meta shift, right? But we even already saw yesterday in Blood Moon League a very picture perfect example of where with the changes here, you're no longer getting the true value out of that perk if you're really efficient on the killer side. And I'm not sure how I agree with that, because now if you get a down 40, 45, 60 seconds into the trial, now all of a sudden those gens across the way are just completely uncovered. And now you also don't have the option to wait out corrupt. So what's your thoughts on that change?
Yeah, that one, I don't know why they've done that. I don't know why they decided, hey, you get a fantastic, now you don't have one of your... It's weird. I feel corrupt with and how it was certainly it was. I get that they're changing to change the meta, but changing things for the sake of changing things, I don't think is the right play.
Like, I almost feel like if you were wanting to change that core mechanic, then why make it a perk, right? Like, why not just make that in the base kit for killers that the top 3 gens are covered until there's out? Because it seems like now the perk, there's no consistent value to it, right? Like, the value is now really relying on how good or bad you play on the killer side, right?
Yeah, it does seem that way. Like, if you're sorry about that. If you get it down very early, like imagine you're playing Billy, you're just chainsawing to go to something is, and someone accidentally steps in the way. You get it down, sure, an early hook, but you're still being punished for it,
Right?
in a way. Same as the rule changes. If you kill someone, it gets rid of your ruin.
Mhm. It's,
I'm not 100% sure why they've made that sort of change. I mean, that seems like a very survivor-sided change to remove when you've gotten a kill. Like you're essentially punishing yourself for removing someone early.
yeah, I don't it's I understand, but it's again, it's like one of those where like I can understand where the head's at if you're sitting in a boardroom, like trying to like because obviously there was a collective of people that needed to make the decisions for some of these perks, and I can understand the thought process that probably walked people through to like why they needed to change them to the or like why they needed to add the things in that they did. But I guess where my question lies, especially because we saw behavior in DBD like a couple weeks ago, like really go, I felt out of their way to mention that they had like play testers and they like play test their game before releasing stuff.
Yeah, who are their playtesters?
Who are their play testers and how much do they play the game other than when they're asked to play test the game, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like remember when M Coat was I can't remember what event he was at. He was playing Survivor. No, he was playing Hag and getting absolutely destroyed uh, by just a 4-man team. And it's like, well, you've sort of given a perfect example of just because you're a this game and you have an understanding of the side of it, you
Mm-hmm.
don't really have the gameplay skill to the community to make a lot of these sort of informed decisions that perhaps you see like people that have played this a very long time. Look at even like the long-term content. A lot of them do have more fundamental understanding of how the game works because instead of just working on the game in the background, they're playing for a living.
Right.
Even the competitive side, like a lot of people do reference the fact that for like comp, we seem to have like from the competitive scene, we have a much better balancing compared to public game. Like it seems that the community has a bit more understanding happening in the game and what makes things more balanced than the people saying, well, we need to change this and this will fix everything. Like the add-on, the range add-on.
For the nurse, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is unhealthy. That is terrifying. I've been against that a decent amount lately.
Yeah, I think the hard thing when we talk about some of these decisions and like when we look at the thought process behind them, like for me, it's one thing when they talked about implementing MMR because it's like, okay, maybe they're not balancing the game, say for me, the content creator that plays this game way too freaking much. So my MMR is probably going to be higher up. So I'm supposed to be kept away from the person who only plays this game like 5 hours a week. That makes sense, right? But like obviously it also kind of takes away some of my fun because some of that randomness is where I get my clips and so on and so forth. But again, it's like one of those situations, who are you balancing it for? But then now when I see some of these decisions, and again, it goes back to when some of these changes are made, who is playing this and saying that's healthy? Because I don't feel there's some things that like you just look at it and I don't understand for the health sake of the game. We'll go back to the um decisive strike thing, right? Like now more so, if let's say I am going against a team that has 4 decisive strikes and I camp and tunnel, which a lot of, we know killers like to do. I'm not saying they always do it, but if they do tend to do that, now if I've done a good job as a survivor and I've stayed off the hook, I don't get the benefit of the end game play of deliverance. And I always feel like the end of the trial is when the spiciest plays happen, and that's like the most fun and engaging. I feel like we're taking away from that with a few of our perks now, you know?
Oh, the fact that when the exit gates are open, decisive strike doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, like so if I've
Yeah.
done a good job of saving somebody or or of like staying off hook, so now I have the availability to get the decisive strike in end game, but now it's not available because I did my job too well. You know what I mean? It's very
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. It's a little bit interesting. I don't know why they've changed that. It's although one big benefit that they've done is the changes to hope.
Dude, honestly, I really like hope. Probably going to mean that like the only thing that I don't like about hope is I feel like that's going to make 4 killers struggle more in endgame. But I don't think we're going to see Hope used that much. You know what I mean? Like, we'll see it occasionally. I don't know if it's going to be like meta shifting in the sense that it's going to have people playing like the perk more, but I do like the fact that it's not restricted, which is really nice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm quite enjoying the fact that there's no more timer on that now.
And I mean, so I also like real quick here before we I know we also want to dip into talking about the games and stuff, but I wanted to ask, why is Thana buffed again?
Hey, I'm quite enjoying it as someone that uses the Thanatophobia quite a bit. I very thoroughly enjoy it. Although, just quickly, everyone, we will just need to quickly jump to a 5-minute break to address some technical difficulties. So we will be back with you in a moment. And we are back. Sorry about the technical delays, folks. My microphone decided to give us a little bit of grief here. But speaking of technical difficulties, that rubber banding that's still happening, it's... Yeah. I don't get it. You know, we've got all of these big changes that are being announced, which is fantastic. We're going to get to try them out on the PTB. But I'm still rubber banding in almost all of my games. And I don't know what kind of spaghetti code or behavior magic has been making me sort of travel back in time in my games. Have you been running into that just as badly?
So I will be honest, I personally have not been having as many issues rubber banding. I will say though, from I mean, pretty much every time that I stream, I'm usually looping with my community. So I'm usually running with at usually 3, if not 4 people, you know what I mean? Like running with a full squad. And there's usually at least someone that's having some issues. You know what I mean? It's not consistently like always the same issue or same person. I will say, part of it though, it seems to be, well, I shouldn't say part of it because we're seeing it on PC, but man, like when you talk about console and especially like last gen consoles that are still trying to play the game and, you know, that are you know, spending money for cosmetics and stuff like that, on those things, we're talking probably about as close to consistent with rubber banding as I've seen though.
Oh, yes. You always know when one of your teammates is a console player aside from the big little globe symbol that they've got next to their name. If you've got any aura reading perks and you watch them run on a spot for this, you know, for a few seconds and then just end up on the floor, you're like, excellent. How is that console treating you so far? But yeah, I don't know what exactly is broken. I know that it's, you know, it's behavior's tradition. Every time there's a new patch, something has to break horribly. I know that that's how, like, you know, that's how the game's been since release. One thing's added, 2 things break. But
now,
yeah,
to play devil's advocate, a lot of that is kind of across the industry. I would say the difference is behavior seems to be a little bit, they aren't the quickest to fix the newest issues. You know what I mean? It seems like there's some bugs we play with for, I would say, a little too long, you know?
Best example of that was the nurse blink bugs and the double stun.
That, or even, I mean, what was that around this time last year where killers were like literally hitting through every pallet, like not like Pokosing, but like just they were swinging through pallets and hitting people, and like we had to deal with that for like 3 weeks or something crazy. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of insane. It's why I worry about rubber banding right now with everything changing, because like, what is it going to get fixed or is it going to get worse? You know what I mean?
Yeah, go from rubber banding to just being glued to spots like that old bug that used to happen where you'd go try and run up Pride Rock and you'd get vacuumed into the rock.
Yeah. Oh man. You know, I had a theory about what caused that, and I've never been able to prove if it was true or not. But didn't it always kind of happen on the corner going into the up the rock itself, right?
Yeah, if you'd, let's say you're looking at the front of Pride Rock, every single time it ever happened to me and people I knew, it was on the right side if you were looking at the ramp up. So if you were like hugging your way around the little rocks there at the base, that's typically where people became one with the rock.
I always thought that it was something to do with, because I think occasionally a gen spawn there. I was wondering if there is something with collision with it, because it was always the same spot where once you hit it, you just got stuck. And it seemed to be where the like gen would spawn, like on the back side of the gen. So I always wondered if that was part of it. But yeah, it's weird. Like we'll see stuff like that. And when it sits, and yeah, man, if I had to deal with that again, I don't know how much longer. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I'm already feeling, I'm already stressed with all of these changes that are coming to DBD. You know, I mean, yeah, we've gotten some things that are getting nerfed decently. You know, like I would say the NOED nerf definitely a healthy one. We had talked about the Ruin nerf. I think taking out the fact that it breaks now at the removal of the first person if it's still open. But I think when you look at it, when I was looking at all the changes, I'm like, bro, gens take longer. I'm not having the help with my vault speed on my spine chill. It's no longer working unless the spine chill is actually unless the guy's actually looking at me. So I can't stealth. Gens take longer. I can't dead hard for distance. What am I supposed to do? Just die? Like, excuse me?
Although one thing I have noticed, and I'm not too sure if it's a bug or not, but have you seen some of the fast vaults you can get right now? It feels like it's like 2016, 2017 all over again. Like, I'll be like I'll be in my head-on build, which is head-on, quick and quiet, deception, and iron will, and I'll be vaulting a window like I don't know, like faster than the speed of light. It's weird. Who knows? Maybe
I've
that's
gotten
what's
worried
going to
that the
happen
head-on
with
bug's going to
speeds.
come back again.
Oh no! Please no.
The only
Not
reason
this again.
I've worried about it because a couple of times recently when I've like head on people, like I'm jumping out of the locker like 4 feet off the ground, like my head's at the top of the locker, and I'm like, bro, I remember that like it's reminiscent of when you would head on somebody and then just get stuck in the locker.
Yep.
And they couldn't pull you out. Oh, that was so hilarious. I used to have so many good clips. Peekaboo.
Oh, and the one thing that I love that still kind of happens now is that shockwave that you get from the head on. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very, very curious to see the direction that it is going to take with these changes.
Mm-hmm.
I do hope beyond hope that the rubber banding does start to fix itself, because it's only a matter of time until that starts to affect people in comp as well. Imagine you're in a tiebreaker situation of a set.
Oh, we've already seen it come into some effect over in an NA EU, like literally in a tiebreaker set. It's kind of crazy.
Oh no! Imagine that though. Like you lose a tiebreaker because your feet turn to glue. Like it's yeah, you'd want to send your character off to the glue factory after that one. It'd be not very pleasant.
Yeah, I mean, it was a situation where we literally saw a set ran back and they were in the second part of the set, in the second trial, and then like all the survivors are kind of feeling it, but like it didn't really kind of pop in until like the trial was, a couple minutes in. And then at that point, like once you're a couple minutes into a trial, like the restart condition gets steeper, right? And it's just like, especially because it's a ghost face set, which already takes flipping 40 minutes. Where we ran it back. We're in the second one. Nah, y'all are playing this thing out. I'm sorry, dog. Like it's internet, man.
Yeah, we're all gonna suffer together.
Yeah, I ain't doing it, bro. But yeah, I do gotta say though, and I agree. I know what I had an initial knee jerk reaction when I saw the a lot of the perk changes, because I do think it's easy to see at face value, or I think it's easy to feel at face value that it's a survivor nerf and a killer buff, kind of across the board. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think it's going to be like we've seen when we've seen killers get changed. I think it just changes. It's going to change how you have to play the game. I don't think it's going to really shift the balance of the game so much, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And all it's going to be is people are just going to have to adjust. I can imagine for a long time we're going to be seeing, I mean, lightweight got a buff. So I feel that we're going to be seeing that come into play. People will just have to slowly get used to those changes. And I feel for the killers, it will be pretty boring to start with. It'll be a lot more immersive until people start venturing out of their shell a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. But how about last week's games? I mean, we had some amazing matches there on Friday.
Well, we started off with a banger.
Oh, yes. That was Endless vs. Owned. That was a massive, massive nail-biting finish, that setup.
Yeah, I mean, I know in last week's podcast, we had kind of predicted that we'd have at least one 5-set banger. And then, of course, we start off the week, and that's exactly what we got with Endless and Owned. And it was 3-2 all the way down to the end. And if my memory serves me right, a lot of the sets were like very, very close too. Like this is one of those where it's not like just the set points were close, but like every set could have really kind of gone either way. Like I don't think anyone really felt in control for too long, and it was really fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had I think owned one of their sets was by like one of their matches was by a single point was what got them the victory. And then endless, of course, they had some really close point finishes as well.
I realized that with the 5-set banger there for owned, that's back-to-back weeks for them. Granted, we had the week off in between. But so in 2 weeks of league play, they've played 10 sets and they took the dub home in both of them.
That is massive.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't want to like jump ahead, but when we see who they're playing against this week, I wouldn't be surprised if that one goes 5.
Oh yeah, who are they up against? Rev versus
Rev.
Owned this week. Oh yeah, with Rev on their nurse again. So I'm assuming that's going to be T-Doge again on that nurse.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're in literally a third straight week of league play with 5 sets. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, both teams have some insane nurse players. I mean, on Owned, you've got Val. The Val Pocos, as a lot of people do like to meme about, but their mechanics on nurse is just top notch. And then T-Doge, of course. OG legacy comp player, regrouping with his team here on Rev. I feel like it's going to be some really insanely great games to watch. And then it goes straight into Spirit on Coal Tower as well.
Yeah. Now, I didn't want to jump too far, but I wanted to point that out because I see them. And while we're talking about Rev, though, because they did follow up and they stayed undefeated, right? Yeah, Rev is the only undefeated team, if I remember right. Hold on, let me pull back up the standing. They are the only undefeated team after beating Genesis. That's crazy.
Yep, with a set win percentage of 60% as well. So they're just stomping through their sets. They're the highest set win, longest win streak here. If they do win this, though, they will be the only team in the standings to have 4 wins to their name as well, or 4 undefeated wins to their name, I should say.
And it's going to be interesting, man, because like I feel like Rev in that game versus Genesis, and I mean Genesis sitting right now in that 3rd slot in the rankings. Granted, 2 through 4 are all it's just separated based off of like some of the tiebreakers because they're all 3 and 1. But I feel like Rev, I mean, showed some like even though it was close in a lot of the sets, but to win 3-0 against another top team, I'm going to be excited to see how long Revolution is able to kind of keep this display of dominance. And again, not to jump too far, and I'm sure we're going to be actually closing talking about, but that Rev versus Own game this week is definitely going to be one to keep an eye on for.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was they made short work of Genesis last week. But Genesis will get another shot here to start picking up their numbers up against A1. With some interesting matchups here. Only one really only one S tier killer on that list there with Huntress, the rest being Plague, Executioner, and Pinhead. I feel
like it's going to be a very survivor focused like gameplay, like because it's more of the M1s, right?
Yeah, if only Disillusion wasn't banned. Can you imagine Plague, Disillusion Plague on Azeroth's resting place? Get everyone sick, all the pallets are gone. Just then go and get your red goo and it's all over.
Easy peasy.
Oh, yes.
Sorry,
go on, buddy.
No, I was just going to say it was interesting because we saw our top 4 face off last week. We kind of talked to the 2 games, right? Endless owned Revolution Genesis, but still in that listing is owned Revolution here to be playing against each other. And I would say when we look at Endless and Genesis, I feel like the 2 of them kind of get a little bit easier passes this week because they're not playing top 4 teams. Do you think that helps? Do you think that helps Revolution and Owned in the sense that they're kind of keeping like the skills sharpened, or do you think having a week where you're not going as a top 4 allows you to actually work on some of the weaker points in your game versus just going for the dub?
See, That's a hard one to pick because both of those have a lot of merit. Like if you're up against a team that you do feel that you do outclass, or
Mhm.
you know, if there is a clear difference, if you look at the standings, take for example, Endless versus K20.
Mhm.
K20 has some great players, but Endless is sitting on 3 wins, 1 loss. You know, Blight being one of their popular picks that they do have here. K20 though is sitting currently on all losses, even though they are getting their, you know, again, their top popular pick with Billy. I mean, out of 3 of their games so far, they have picked Hillbilly. For a team like Endless, who has been together for a lot longer and is sitting higher on the standings, that would be an easier chance for them perhaps to bring out, yeah, you know, things like Plague or Executioner, same as what Genesis, I guess, yeah, exactly what Genesis is doing. But at the
Mhm.
same time, having another week where you are playing, even though it is a bit more draining, playing a team that is at what you'd feel is a same caliber to yourself or even higher, it does keep you sharper. It gives you a reason to scrim more. It keeps people focused more, you know, the week prior to the game because they know, right, we have to get on and practice these killers. You know, we have to be ready for this, which it does help with cohesion overall. And I'd find that that would help you improve long term. But you do have the downside of that. You scrim
Mhm.
hardcore for a week up against a really solid team. You go in, you're feeling really confident, really good with your team play, the builds, all of this stuff. But you go in and you lose. That's a massive
Right.
morale breaker. Um, I've experienced that myself, you know, feeling pretty confident going into a match and then walking, you know, leaving the match afterwards, like, what the hell happened? How did I lose so convincingly? Like,
Right.
so there is so many different sides to this to consider. But any day of the week, though, when it comes to competitive side of things, I personally prefer going up against a stronger team because it gives me something to focus on rather than thinking that it's going to be an easier win.
So while we're talking about, I know you'd mentioned some of these teams, the K20s, the A1s. I did want to touch on real quick how they looked last week because I think we saw, because you had mentioned K20 still looking for their first win, and A1
Mm-hmm.
also being in the same spot. So of course that does mean that K20 versus Cat Jam did result in a win for Cat Jam. It was a 3-0, and I also wanted to point out that A1 also going to be bouncing off 3-0 deficit, both of them looking to take on tougher teams. What do you think, like what does that preparation look like, knowing that you're kind of one looking to still put a dub on the board, two, you're now bouncing back from like tough weeks all the way around for both of them, and then now you are going against, like, I mean, some of the cream of the crop of the league. What does the preparation look like for these two teams?
It depends on how their team is really set up. So taking K20 for example, you'd want to really be sitting down and like one thing that we used to do at Step, record the games, you'd watch them back and see where you went well and where you can go differently.
Mm-hmm.
So reviewing as a team, like, right, you know, I found that I was doing great in these chases against this. However, I was going bad because I was trying to mind game everything, or you know, so the biggest thing that they need to be focusing on is where their strengths and weaknesses are. I mean, the fact that they're doing comp, they've coordinated a team like this. These are people that are clearly really dedicated to the game and probably put a lot of time into it. So it's not like, you know, it's not like they've just bought the game and they don't know what they're doing. They'll have some clear fundamentals. They'll have some a clear understanding of the core concept of the game and the win conditions in terms of comp compared to pubs. Um, I think if I was in their shoes, if my team didn't have one yet, I'd be looking for a coach. There are, you know, legacy comp players that do coaching. So that way you get a second set of eyes that can watch how your team, you know, how you play together, how your communication is. They can offer differences. Who knows? There could be problems where there could be coordination issues because of how they communicate as a team. It could be that maybe their builds aren't as optimal as they could be. There's a lot of little things that they need to work on. I think though the biggest thing, really, if I was in the shoes of, you know, teams like A1 or K20, you need to make sure that you don't lose your mental even if you do lose this. Disheartening to be four losses, no wins in a league, but if you can start gathering more experience, start, you know, winning more sets, getting them closer and closer, eventually you will start to beat these teams. But you've got to make sure you beat your own mental first, because if you lose to that,
Right.
it's game over. That's
Yeah, I
the
mean,
hardest part.
the head's the worst place to be, right? In your own head.
Oh yeah, if you're living in your own head rent free, GG.
Yeah.
Like no matter what happens, if something good happens, you're just gonna think it's whatever. As soon as something bad happens, you'll just be, creating a marching band for the issue of, oh, this is so bad. This is the worst thing ever. Why is this allowed? Why am I being hit through this and that and blah blah blah? And you just spiral downwards, and that brings down the team too. Because if you're in a comp setting and you're yelling at your teammates or you're yelling about yourself to your teammates, it brings down the whole team, which can
Now,
be very hard.
while we're talking about it, so K20 is going to be going against Endless this week. So I know you kind of started talking about the killers, right? We've got Blight, Hillbilly, Nurse, Spirit, Oni.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're starting off in a lot of fast-paced games here for K20, right? Um,
Mm.
because it is not, I should be say starting off. I mean, really, all of it's fast-paced gameplay unless you were to get to set 5 and then you have the Oni. But of course, Oni still has that
It's its own
fast-paced
treasure and its
potential,
own
right?
beast. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, I feel like this can be a challenge for K20 here, but I think with some of the things that you just mentioned here, I wouldn't be surprised to see them put up a fight. I just don't know if I see them taking down Endless after the way Endless like looked last week, right? I mean, they went 5. It was a tough set, but I mean, I think Endless showed a lot of fight last week. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see them take the dub here. The question is how many sets to go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if it does, like when it does get to set 3, I know that K20 picked Nurse, but I've seen Endless play Nurse on Cold Tower. I've seen them play Survivor and Killer for this. We've had their team being absolute menaces with the flashlight, running the edge maps really well. Like that's an environment that they're really comfortable in. Same as Hillbilly on Shelter as well. Shelter Woods is used to be one of the picks for Hillbilly, as one of the default maps. That and uh, Thompson House was one for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So these are environments that they're really used to. Even Blight on Suffocation Pit. This is a really comfortable territory for them. I do feel like Endless will probably sweep this 3-0.
You think
Just
so?
because it's an environment they're super used to. K20 could definitely put up a fight. I'd be really impressed by them if they do take the set, especially Sheltered against Hillbilly. I mean, if you take Doom Engravings, Low Pro Chains, you make really quick work of those the few pallets on that map. And then it just comes down to your M1 fundamentals and how you push people around the TL structures or the jungle gyms, however they spawn. And just don't make the mistake I did and try and go for Flick Billy. You just need to make sure that you're going for efficient stuff. Don't worry about the spike boots. Just go low pros, just go Doom Engravings. Bamboozle is really solid on that too, to get rid of the few windows on it.
I do gotta say, when I'm looking at the killer picks here, I'm intrigued by K20 picking the Nurse in what could potentially be the elimination set. Because I feel like Nurse is always an interesting killer pick for me, especially I think for newer teams, because especially your experienced team. I mean, Nurse has been a staple in the game for how long? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be. I feel like Nurse isn't a killer pick where you are trying to potentially throw off the other team, right? Maybe say, hey, here's a curveball, let us win with the curveball. Here's just it's almost like brute forcing the let me just see if my guys can run over your guys because we're both going to be very efficient on a killer that we're all practicing and scrimming. You know what I mean? Like very often
Mm.
it's so seeing that against a team again like Endless, who we do know, is one of those teams, right now sitting in second place in the league. Um, I don't know if that's because you're just that confident on your Nurse, or if you are that, I guess it'd be not confident in like winning a curveball sort of pick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, a good strategy from teams like, less experienced teams against, more experienced teams is you definitely don't want to run like an M1 killer or something like that against them. You do want to have something that can give you that chance. Like you were saying, that curveball Nurse can be very solid with that. But you also need to be careful. Like, We've seen Endless deal with nurses on Coal Tower in a variety of different
Yeah.
ways. Um, and then it also comes down to your ability with that as your killer side, but then also how will your survivor side work together to take down their comp nurse? It's a, you know, it's a very, it can be a very slippery slope. But I mean, I would love to see K20 snag one of these sets. I mean, in reality, I'd like it to go to the 5 because I do like watching Oni gameplay, and we do see Oni featured quite a bit on these coming games as well.
Yeah, I am going to be happy to see where we don't have to depend on going to the overtime set to get Oni, and those will be a little bit later in the week. But yeah, I I wouldn't be surprised to see K20 snag one. Um, I think I'm with you. I'm anticipating a 3-0, but don't be surprised if it's a 3-1. I don't think it'll go 5, unfortunately. I would love it to. Because
Oh,
I'm with you.
absolutely.
Oni, especially seeing Oni on ARP, it being, kind of a unique map because we do have the not only the killer picks and bans, but the map picks and bans. So to see Oni on ARP would be kind of spicy, for sure.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
we talked about Endless, here being, or not Endless, K20 looking for their first dub. A1 going to be in the same situation, in a similar
Hmm.
situation against the top 4 team here, going to be going against Genesis. Looking at, Plague, Executioner, Cenobite, Huntress, Slinger. You had kind of talked about earlier that no real power players as far as
Mm,
the killer list here, which is almost like the flip side of
yeah.
that conversation we were just talking about, right? Now it is all of the M1s, but it's Genesis where I'm expecting this is going to be a more survivor focused matchup because it is tougher killers. And Genesis has just shown so much consistency on their survivor side. Um, it's going to be tough for A1, but I think this one goes 4 sets. I think it's going to be tough for A1 to pull a dub, like a whole series dub against Genesis. So I won't be surprised to see Genesis take this thing like 3-1.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've seen Genesis. I've come up personally against Seabass's Plague, his Executioner, and his Huntress. Like, A1's in for a treat because he is goddamn scary to come up against. Um, but
Yeah, his
yeah,
killer
Genesis.
diversity is really disgusting.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and his game sense, just his micro and macro overall, it's really great to see. Um,
He's not in
the
chat. He's
trick.
not going to hear us blowing him up right now, right?
Ah, that's his loss now. Uh, but I really love seeing Plague on ARP and Executioner on Suffocation Pit.
Mhm.
Seeing Pyramid Head, that P Daddy out on Suffo Pit is just, that is a really fun game to play. That's also a bit of a nostalgic one for me. That was the first comp match I ever did play. So that exact matchup's always going to hold a
Aw.
special place in my heart. But yeah, and then you see Pinhead 2 on Wrecker's Yard. That's I'm predicting that's going to be a absolute slog. There's going to be a lot of gen pressure from that, just a lot of slowdown. And if they know their box spawns well, it's going to be rough.
Yeah, I love watching Pinhead in comp because usually your killers have a decent grasp on the box logic. Of course, that also means usually survivors also have a grasp. So with good communication, especially like spawning in, and you can probably figure out where the killer spawned to. You should even if when we're talking about like mid game, whenever the box is solved, you kind of have more information available for you on the survivor side than the killer side, right? Because you know where everyone's at, which means more than likely you know where the killer's at too. But
Mm-hmm.
um, that inopportune chain hunt can really throw people for a loop with Pinhead. So the fact that we're for sure seeing Pinhead, right? Like Pinhead's first 3 sets, I'm
Oh
for it.
yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, I'm very thankful though that they do have the original Pain and Ultra Rare add-ons banned
Mhm.
for Pinhead, because they're trying to verse something like the Engineer's Fang, where they're just getting those long range insta injures when you're full HP. It's just oof, that is not fun. I feel like we probably won't get to see Huntress, but it really does depend on how A1 handles the playground. I feel like that's going to be the tricky one, I feel, for Genesis, and then the other two should be quite solid for them.
Yeah,
But it will be really interesting to see.
I'll be intrigued. I mean, the plague is their pick, right? So I would hope that they're going to have a good understanding of a game plan that they have coming in. Of course, everyone, I can't remember who it was that said it. Everyone has a game plan until they get punched in the mouth. So it's one thing to have a game plan going in. It's one to be able to stick to the game plan. But with them coming in with the plague, hoping to set the tone, I'm going to be expecting a very aggressive build, honestly, from the play. Wouldn't be surprised to see more of like that double apple add-on, looking to come in, make some noise. Also, I did want to shout out real quick, big shout out to Spokerman coming through with the raid here. Of course, Spokerman was on for episode 1. Appreciate you, homie.
My man, thank you for that raid, Spoker. You're an absolute gem.
So we talked Endless K20. We talked Genesis A1. Now things get spicy here because while I would say Cat Jam and Purgatory, although they are sitting in the bottom half of the standings, both teams have shown some promise early on this season. We talked about how, Owned has had their last 2 games went 5 sets, their last 2 series went 5 sets. So obviously we talked how last week was against Endless, but the week before that was against Cat Jam. Cat Jam did show a lot of promise in that matchup. And then of course, Purgatory has shown some pretty good promise as well throughout this season. And then this killer pick, as well as the map pick, gets very interesting because we do see some common ones. We see the Hillbilly, we see the Blight, we see the Oni. But when we talk about the maps here, we're starting with Hillbilly on Larry's, Oni on Suffocation Pit, which I don't think I've seen before, Doctor on Wrecker's Yard, Blight on the Ironworks of Misery, Dilly Dilly. Then if we need to, in set number 5 will be Father Campbell's Chapel, pour one out for the homie Maurice for the plague. So,
what happened to Maurice? Where are they gone?
Well, the Dredge took them.
Yeah. See, look, I was away for a little bit, and I come back, and one of the first things I see is Maurice is gone from Father Campbell's Chapel.
Very sad.
Yeah, very sad. And yeah, this.
Oh, but Maurice still lives. I don't know if you saw that in they dropped that nugget on us this last week.
Dead by thank God he still lives.
In the post where they're explaining the changes to the progression system and all that in the Prestige, one of the screenshots, the killer's name is Maurice Lives.
Hey,
fun fact.
But
nugget for y'all.
Hillbilly on Leary's.
To start things off.
Yeah, I don't really know how that's come about, but I'm really excited to see this. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, at least with the Billy, because usually like when we see Larry's in comp, or at least when I've seen Larry's in comp in the past, it's almost exclusively for the ghost face. And you have the palettes to kind of play. Oh, and Pig. Yeah, true. But when we talk about, you don't have we're probably not going to see those mind games as much with the palettes, because I would anticipate we're going to be seeing the low pros. And a lot of the palettes are usually considered safer palettes because there's not too many places to go, but you're like stuck in hallways, or those long, like say like the one in the bathroom. If you're not throwing it from the right side, you aren't going to have very many places to go. So our survivors are going to have to be playing it careful.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be pretty funny to watch. Like, I've been stuck in my own personal hell playing Hillbilly on Larry's before. So from the killer's perspective, it will be rough. You're not going to have as solid mobility unless you get some pretty lucky hallways where they're not as congested. Yeah, getting through the pallets, look, you're going to definitely need the low pros there. You're definitely going to need Bamboozle to at least cut off some windows in certain chases, because you're going to be able to tie together a lot of those. So there's going to be a lot of M1s forced, I feel, as Billy. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'd love to be able to cut away to hear the killer's comms while they're going through there. just to hear what they're yelling about, where they're while they're trying to run Billy on that godforsaken map.
It's just interesting. I feel like if I would have heard that there was a Hillbilly Larry's, I would have thought maybe that was like the tiebreaker and those were just like the leftover picks. You know what I mean? Like to see that as the first pick, I was um amused to say the least.
Yes.
So I'm really looking forward to this game, especially because, again, I think both these teams, Cat Jam, Purgatory, have shown some promise this season, and both are in a position looking at the standings where, I mean, you can still make some moves, at least up into like where you're kind of dead smack middle in the pack. You just need to be able to kind of put together a couple good series, and both of them are going to be looking. One of them is going to be walking away with a W this week, so
Oh yeah.
going to
Yeah,
be
both
interesting. One, to see how this plays out, and two, how they carry over the momentum.
absolutely. Both of them, both teams, their only win is against K20 in this league so far. So it will be interesting to see who does take this. Both are very solid teams, though. I will say that, like, it is. I've versed Perk and Cat Gem in the past. Both have some really great players on there as well. So I'm really looking forward to see how that plays out. Especially
So who you taking then?
Look, I've got to support my man Sin on Perg. I reckon
Yeah.
Perg will take the dub. It'll be tight though. I reckon it will be probably like I don't know, maybe a 3-1, maybe go the full 5, but I'm not sure. But I do think
I don't
Perg will just
anticipate
out
a
on top.
3-0 either way for sure. I think
Oh,
it's a 4 or
absolutely.
5 set. But I think I'm gonna have to disagree with you. And I think the reason why is
Mhm.
we saw Cat Jam give Owned a fight 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
And then we saw Cat Jam look pretty impressive last week. Granted, you had mentioned it was K20 who is also sitting at the bottom of the standings currently, but I think Cat Jam, we mention momentum often in competitive
Mhm.
DBD, and I think Cat Jam is sitting on this pivot point where if they can take this little bit of a snowball of momentum, and if they can violently shove that thing down the hill, they can really be looking good when we move towards the back end of the season. And so I think because of that, I'm going to have to ride with Cat Jam. And I'm going to say 5 sets. I think this is going to go to Father Campbell's Chapel. Um, and I think because when we look at the picks and the fact that the Blight on Ironworks was Cat Jam's pick, I'm going to anticipate them winning set number 4, having the momentum going into set number 5 in a very tight thing. I think they're going to win 3-2.
Yeah,
Thought.
that is a solid one to get to Blight on Ironworks. If you do take that, that will give you some massive morale boost. But moving into the next one though, the sort of the one I'm really
Game of the
most
week,
excited
baby.
for.
This is game of the week.
Oh
We can
yeah,
call it that. Yeah.
100%. Rev versus Owned. Nurse on Wreckers, Spirit on Cold Tower, Oni on Sheltered Woods, Slinger on Suffer, and then their tiebreaker being Billy on ARP. It's going to be great. Both teams have some solid Nurse and Spirit players. I'll be interested though to see who plays Oni for Rev. That will be interesting because I'm not too sure who they'd pick.
Yeah. I mean, Oni being unsheltered is going to be fun. I think that I think with that being set number 3 is going to be pivotal here because I'm not sure who they've got on their roster that would be the one that they would more than likely want to send out for that matchup. But I feel like when you look at Nurse, Spirit, 2 fast-paced games, and then Oni, of course, as we had mentioned earlier, kind of that more like hybrid. You got to slow things down, but also like move with a purpose, especially because there is that whole power potential. But the reason I think the pivot point being really set number 3 here is because then you're going from that to really slowing things down in the slinger set. So I feel like if you are able to kind of maintain the balance while also slowing things down and take the dub there, you're going to be more in your bag to then continue slowing things down to be comfortable but moving with a purpose there. So I think whoever wins set 3 IMO is who wins this set. I don't know who I'm leaning towards though, honestly.
Yeah, it's a tough pick. I mean, I do personally feel Rev is going to take the bag. Like, I reckon that Revolution will win that matchup, but it's going
Yeah.
to be tight. Like, both teams have shown some insane performances, both with solid rosters, great rotations, great plays. But I don't know. I feel like the experience and the time played together on Revolution, I feel like that's going to help them secure the win.
Yeah, I mean the OG squad has definitely been showing that they've been on a tear since they've been here, right? I mean, we had kind of even mentioned last week, even taking down a team like Genesis, who has been really impressive in their other 3 matchups this season, making pretty light work of them 3-0. So um, I think I've got to lean in favor of Rev just a little bit. Um, I am hoping for the homies over and owned. This doesn't go 5 sets because that would then mean 15 sets played in 3 weeks. That's kind of crazy.
Yep, the
Um,
5 sets never end for them.
yeah, just keep it rolling. But I do like with the killer pick selection all the way around. You start with the S tiers, you slow things down, then going back to ARP with the Billy if they happen to make it that far. This is going to be fun, and I think. Let me look at the schedule. Is that our Sunday game, right?
Yep, Rev and Owned is our Sunday game.
Why is that not there? It is. Yeah. Which to keep in mind, what we mentioned or I shouldn't say keep in mind. If you're sitting there going Sunday game, yeah, we have Sunday game this week. We had some scheduling conflicts, so we'll have 1 match tomorrow, 2 matches Saturday, and then 1 series tomorrow, 2 series Saturday, and then a series on Sunday.
Yep, it's not like I was planning anything on Sunday.
I mean, to be fair, it's Sunday. It's in the later in the evening, so you can do what you want to do on
I
Sunday.
can do a,
Sunday,
I
right?
can
A
do a little bit. Yeah.
little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm very much looking forward to. I mean, look, I'd love to see them bust out the Billy because I absolutely love watching some hillbilly gameplay. But it depends. Like we just need to see how it goes.
I think more I sit here on it, I think I'm gonna lean Rev's way, and I think I'm gonna go 3-1. I think is my overall pick. I think they steal the Oni set, which was Own's pick. Um, I think they probably split set 1 and 2, and they both they win the sets that are theirs. So Rev wins set 1, Owned in set 2. I think Rev takes set 3, and then finishes off on their set, which will be the Deathslinger.
Yeah, Rev Deathslinger, I feel, is going to be a very spicy watch. But yeah, I'm with you. I think it's probably going to be 3-1. It'll be close though. They'll nearly get to 3-2, but we will see. But yeah, that's us for for this weekend. By the looks of it, I am
Now,
very keen to be on the desk for that.
I can't wait. It's gonna be a whole lot of fun. Now, while we're kind of talking about the games real quick, or just got done talking about the games, because we only have 1 game tomorrow, it does
Mm-hmm.
look like we're going to be starting later than normal. So we should probably let people.
Are we? Let's double check. I mean, that sounds about right.
That's what challenge is showing me. So I just wanted to double check that. Maybe we can have somebody confirm with us in the back. So it's
Yeah,
showing
Friday 9
me,
p.m. on
yeah,
challenge.
means I
If
can
we've got,
sleep in. Let's go.
yeah, have we got any Moderinos in the background that might be able to confirm that with us? I do see a
But
Bob floating around in the chat that might be able to let us know.
But if that's the case, so we'll have, and that'll be a good game. So we start with K20 Endless tomorrow, 9 p.m. And then Saturday will be, we start
Saturday.
with Genesis A1 and then Purgatory Cat Jam. And then the game
Mm-hmm.
of the week will be on Sunday. So it looks like our Saturday's normal scheduled time. Sunday, we will be pushed back a little bit as well. Just not
That is
as far back
correct.
as Friday.
Yeah, just 7 instead of the 9 p.m. Beautiful. Yeah, I am stoked.
I was waiting for confirmation, but yeah, we'll make sure you're keeping an eye out on the Discord. We'll post in there for sure. It will, in case you're wanting to know. And
yeah, the mod team will definitely keep everyone informed here. I haven't seen anyone dramatically typing in the Shoutcaster chat, so I think that we're right on the money here with 9 p.m.
They're scrimming, so don't. Oh, these ones. All right, that's fine. That's fine. Well, we've gotten through our predictions, Dart. I think we're wrapped up with the trip into another trip in the fog here for the Fog Down Under podcast. What do you think?
Yeah,
where can the people find you at?
For me, I will be back on the streaming grind as of maybe tomorrow on twitch.tv/Darthain Plays Games. Been a hot minute since I've streamed, not gonna lie. But hopefully coming back to that very soon. And
or something else?
Oh yes, definitely gonna do the DBD. I'm not too sure if I'll throw anything else. If the queues get long, I might put some Pac-Man in the background or something like that. We will see.
Nice. I'm always down for. You said Pac-Man?
Oh yes, I've got what I used to do is oh yeah, I have a whole thing set up so if the queue times get too long, I just press a button, swaps my overlay to Pac-Man, and I just play Pac-Man until I get a game.
Let's go. I am 100% down. Love it. As far as for people looking for your boy, pretty much anywhere that you can think of content wise, at yoboycue, YOBOYCUE, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, though I don't post much on there. I probably should. I just don't like pictures. You can find me on Steam. If you're looking to add me in game, same thing. It's just the yoboycue. MySpace, even I probably would find, is MySpace still open? I think you would actually probably find my like 16-year-old page of MySpace. I think actually that's kind of crazy to think about.
Oh my god.
But yeah, not the letter Q, YOBOYCUE. Of course, I am going to be finishing posting up the last bit of the games from last week over on my YouTube. I still have a couple more to go. One of them is going to be getting posted up today. I think it's the Revolution Genesis that should be going up here in a couple hours. Biggest thing would probably is I'd say YouTube. We're trying to grow over there, so make sure you also slap over there, slap that butt. We're seeing if we can hit 500 subs this summer.
Very nice. Everyone, make sure if you haven't already done that, drop on over and make sure you support our homie here, Q.
Plus, I mean, it's like, you know, if you like comp DBD, I'll post. I got you not only for OCE, I'm posting for NA, EU, 1v1 events. So, you know, swing through and say what's up. But otherwise, I think that is going to do it for us, at least here until I guess what would be a 23-hour break. Is that right?
Yeah, sounds about that. What? Sounds about right. Sorry, I am melting apparently.
And I'm trying to think. Oh, by the way, if you are watching and you haven't already done so, make sure you smack the follow button down there and hit those notifications on. That way you do know when we go live. Otherwise, it's going to be tomorrow, 9 p.m. Sydney time. So that should make it 7 a.m. Eastern time. I think that's 11 GMT, if I'm not mistaken. Quick math, still early for you, boy.
Yes.
So, yeah, otherwise, we're going to go ahead and take us basically a 22.5-hour break here. We'll be live with some week 5 action for our OCE League. We definitely cannot wait to see y'all back for that. And until we do catch y'all back over here, man, don't forget, everything crazy going on in the world today. Be true, be you, be sincere, game hard and love harder. All right, y'all. Oh, and shout out to Yobro for like making all the podcast things happen. There's his we see that also on the screen, animated by Yobro. He makes us look good. So big shout out to him.
Yeah, he's been putting in a lot of hard work in the background there.
Yeah. So until we catch y'all back, man, y'all be easy. That's Darth. I'm Q from Yobro and the rest of OCE. Take it easy, man.
Peace out, guys.